Innovation and Design Thinking. IDT. VTU. Module 4. Design Thinking for Strategic Innovations. Business Challenges and Design Thinking Solutions. Predictability, Strategic Foresight. Business Challenge 2. Predictability. Business strategy is about finding the balance between two things, predictability and malleability. Malleability is the extent to which the external environment can be influenced and shaped by the actions of companies or industries. Predictability is the extent to which the future of the external environment can be forecast or predicted, which depends on the degree of complexity and speed of change. It usually does not account for any shock or major disruption. It is highly desired and valued in business planning, new product launches, and technology projects, as well as among investors. It builds confidence that managers know what they are doing and will effectively plan for capital and operational investment. What is the real difference between strategic planning and strategic thinking? According to the management guru Henry Mintzberg, strategic planning has always been about analysis, breaking down a goal or set of intentions into steps, formalizing those steps so that they can be implemented, and articulating the anticipated consequences or results of each step. In contrast, strategic thinking is about synthesis. Here, intuition and creativity are the tools that shape a vision of where an organization can or should be going. Essentially, this is strategic foresight, a highly effective way to make sense of possible futures, clarify ambiguity, and create new perspectives that can establish competitive frameworks and opportunities for innovation. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Peter F. Druck. Most organizations strive to achieve a value-adding level of predictability by implementing measurable, repeatable, familiar business processes. This type of predictability allows companies to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity while gradually reducing costs. Typically, business leaders identify processes for improvement and predictability by looking for characteristics and parameters that include transportation and supply chain issues. But this is the present, not the future. The only true way to maintain a useful level of predictability is to actively engage in the shaping of the organization's future. By studying, developing, and visualizing forward-looking scenarios, an organization can equip and prepare itself for tomorrow. Think, for example, how understanding the implications of digital technology, the increasing popularity of torrenting, and shifts in consumer attitudes toward ownership might have given Blockbuster a fighting chance. That fighting chance is strategic foresight. Design thinking solution. Strategic foresight. To face the unknown, businesses must adopt a different approach to predictability. The ability to manage the uncertainties of the future is critical to planning for growth or survival. Because of the rise of the innovation society, new technologies, and a rapidly globalizing economy, business leaders are forced to deal with not only the speed of change but also massive new complexity, uncertainty, and paradox on a global scale. The future will emerge from a constant stream of decisions, strategies, and commitments that have to be made in the present, with as much understanding of risk, possibility, and wisdom as possible. Most managers appreciate and understand the value of strategic foresight but don't know how to make it tangible enough or integrate it into business strategy. Strategic foresight is not planning, it's one of the many inputs for planning. Strategic planning needs to consider a multitude of factors in the present competitive and operational environment and then extrapolate the data into a possible future that is based on a rigorous reading of weak signals. For foresight practitioners, The mission is to imagine what possible futures can be created and provide strategy, a vision, or multiple visions, to facilitate a meaningful dialogue and a roadmap to close any competency gap between today and tomorrow. Don't despair. Despair suggests you are in total control and know what is coming. You don't surrender to events with hope. Alan D. Botton. Strategic foresight is a deliberate and systematic process concerned with establishing well-informed, future-oriented perspectives that help guide and inspire innovation, planning, and decision-making. It helps us understand, anticipate, and prepare for change by equipping us with the tools and resources needed to ask provocative questions, challenge and test assumptions, rethink goals, and explore meaningful strategic alternatives. It encourages the deliberate and systematic exploration of uncertainties and their potential impact on behaviors and relationships. Why does business need strategic foresight? To help to prevent or prepare for surprises. Within dynamic and discontinuous environments, foresight helps organizations better understand the variables influencing the pace, nature, and possible impacts of change. It addresses and confronts the need to continuously orient, reorient, plan, and act within volatile, complex, and uncertain business landscapes so that we are not caught off guard by change. Identifying and questioning the significance of the variables influencing and driving change ultimately help us anticipate and prepare for future conditions. To help to establish and maintain competitive advantage. Practicing foresight helps an organization gain a more robust understanding of how competitive dynamics might be changing and where gaps and opportunities might exist. This, in turn, helps enrich an organization's latent innovation potential, resources, and maneuverability. This is often accomplished by strengthening the ability to define and occupy opportunity spaces faster and with greater competence. To positively influence and support innovation. Foresight is one of many critical inputs or raw ingredients that help frame, fuel, and manage innovation. Any organization with an 18 to 36-month innovation cycle that is drawing on trend analysis to shape its future might as well throw in the towel. By the time you are ready to launch, your trends are old news. Foresight draws on trends, but it is not about trends today but rather what they might evolve into tomorrow. It can be used at the front end as a guide, as fuel, filter, or catalyst. And it can be used post-innovation as an amplifier or critical future-proofing lens. To empower and engage. Practicing foresight helps individuals and organizations develop and improve their ability to identify future opportunities and transform them into meaningful outcomes. Developing and practicing these skills also builds the confidence necessary to make decisions within dynamic, uncertain, ambiguous, and less tangible contexts. Create your future from your future, not your past. Werner Erhard. Design thinking and strategic foresight. Design thinking is about solving wicked problems. As the speed of change continues to increase the complexity of doing business, new and more complex systems and even more wicked problems will continue to emerge. The race is on between bigger challenges and quicker solutions. Foresight is an iterative and cumulative learning process that employs the design thinking toolkit, which includes environmental scanning, context mapping, archetype creation, and scenario development. It offers ways to explore, learn, and make sense of the variables and uncertainties shaping possible futures by questioning their relevance, illustrating their qualities and potential, and describing their influence on existing models and relationships. Exploring the future and its uncertainties should be a daily activity sustained by individuals throughout the organization. Done properly, it should align more closely with planning, strategy, and innovation cycles. To help organizations win that race, there are many foresight tools, processes, and methods that can be employed, most of which begin with weak signals. What are weak signals? In the early 1970s, Igor Ansoff, an applied mathematician, business manager, and the father of strategic management, noticed that failures in strategic management were causally linked to organizations overlooking vague, anomalous, ambiguous, yet critical information. To rectify that, he developed the weak signal theory. For him, weak signals represented change or the potential for it. This change can, at first glance, be insignificant, such as the emergence of P2P file sharing, or highly disruptive, such as digital cameras. These signals are not facts or trends. Rather, as signs of new and emerging capabilities that could disrupt or transform existing norms, they represent subtle changes in reality that will manifest in individual or organizational behaviors, needs, desires, or values. For example, early research investment in an obscure technical domain may be an obvious, strong signal of things to come for experts working within that context who may, even at the very early stages, understand the potential impact of the new capability. For those of us who are outsiders unfamiliar with this particular domain, that signal is still weak. Beginning with weak signals, there are a number of component parts to the strategic foresight process to be discussed. Weak signal scanning. Signals are driving forces that influence and shape the rules, boundaries, and relationships of future competitive and operational contexts. Ultimately, the objective of scanning is to identify what these driving forces are and build awareness around how they interact and how they might redefine the future. Weak signal scanning involves searching the environment for information and insights that will help construct the ingredients of near-future contexts. Through desk research on the internet, scientific and academic journals, media, policy makers, startups, competitors, and other sources, an organization can develop an understanding of how new and emerging shifts in technology, behavior, culture, products, services, and other inputs might evolve to shape possible futures. An evidence-based method of gathering, synthesizing, and socializing new and critical information, this activity can shift the attention of an organization toward new opportunity areas, threats, and potential blind spots by filling in knowledge gaps and developing a more holistic understanding of the world. Key observations and insights generated from scanning can help an organization reevaluate its current behavior in relation to the changing landscape, develop a new dialogue, plan for the future, and compete effectively in the long run. Traditional approaches to environmental scanning include identifying and analyzing the qualities and characteristics of signals from within the social, technological, economic, environmental, and political contexts, STEEP. As a cumulative process, sustained scanning in these subject areas across a multitude of subcategories can help build a stronger and more competitive knowledge base from which potential futures can be defined, prioritized, mapped, and explored. Weak signal processing. Questioning signals helps decision makers and planners review long-standing assumptions, critique cultural logic, and question strategic rigidity. In this process, stakeholders also become aware of opposing or restraining forces that are barriers to growth. Drivers are found in diverse contexts and identified through different approaches. Here, signals are used to create an initial analysis and translation of what might be the road ahead. This is essentially a first cut, at creating order out of the bewildering variety of data that scanning generates. Ultimately, this is an insight organization stage where signals are subject to discussion and analysis based on an identification of structures, patterns, themes, and trends. Weak signal amplification. Determining which signals, insights, and drivers are most critical to include in future contexts and where they fit in relation to one another is key to reducing noise and creating clarity. In this activity, practitioners consider which signals are more relevant to specific business objectives, organizational capacities, or other previously determined goals. Identifying which might have the highest impact on the vision, objectives, and strategies of the organization or its future competitive landscape is the aim. Here, outputs from the previous steps are used to create and expand upon forward-facing views. Scenario, visioning, and normative methods are applied. One should not limit the use of any specific tools. Systems thinking can also be highly effective, or simply drawing a systems map or causal loop diagram forward in time with different assumptions is also a valid technique to examine how different futures may unfold. The question asked at this stage depends on the type of potential futures under consideration and where they are possible, plausible, probable, or preferable. Context mapping. Context mapping is a sense-making process that involves establishing and illustrating the conditions and rules that frame future-oriented scenarios. This process seeks to prioritize, organize, amplify, and visualize the significance of the signals collected through scanning. In a sustained or ongoing foresight model, the rules, boundaries, and relationships defined within context maps may evolve over time to match and align with changing market conditions and organizational behaviors. Scenario development. Scenarios are storytelling tools that present choices and dramatize the impacts of decisions and strategies. They allow stakeholders to access, experience, debate, and rehearse multiple responses to possible futures. They are also highly effective prototyping tools that mobilize the imagination and place human experience, behaviors, and motivations, both individual and organizational, at the core. As fictive spaces, they allow us to sketch, question, and explore a spectrum of possible futures from many perspectives, while also providing a common artifact that can be shared and responded to. Scenarios typically emerge from context mapping exercises that have established very clear frameworks, lenses, and systems of rules. By participating in the creation of well-informed scenarios, stakeholders gain a better overall picture of the forces driving change and how futures may evolve and manifest. Ultimately, this process aims to create tangible outputs that give organizations a range of strategic options for dealing with possible futures. Through written descriptions, visual maps, multimedia presentations, and even experiential events, the goal is to communicate future contexts, potential disruptions, options paths, and the key drivers and rationale that shapes and surrounds them. Here, building timelines that help organizations imagine pace, impact, change, continuous, rapid disruptive versus sustained and incremental, contexts of adoption, new uses, applications of technology, and the transformation of values, behaviors, and expectations makes preparing for the future feel more present and tangible. Thinking points. Technology scanning looks beyond popular tech media and out into the labs, startups, universities, and garages of inventors to collect, analyze, and interpret the functional characteristics of emerging technologies. These technologies and the potential they carry may someday transform or disrupt existing models, behaviors, and relationships. cross-industry scanning curates market expressions and innovations from adjacent industries to identify new organizational behaviors, research and development, R&D, investments, patent applications, emerging products, services, business models, and experience archetypes that illustrate how others are creating, defining, or adapting to change. Scenarios are not an end in themselves. They are a tool to improve the quality of decision-making when dealing with many unknowns. The outcome is not one future but multiple futures. The strategic planning approach in most corporations is still heavily biased toward single-point forecasting. In such a context, the executive premise is, tell me what the future will look like, then we can make the decision. The existence of this mindset will not benefit from multi-point forecasting and scenarios and likely cause more confusion and disbelief. They need to be ready to accept that there is no definitive scenario and to review each scenario to determine the optimal setting for each strategy component. Coming slides presents some evolutions in the technologies. See the figure. Figure shows the evolution of digital networking TV. See the figure. Figure shows the evolution of communication technology over a time. See the figure. Figure shows the history of lighting. See the figure. Another example, the evolution of the digital camera. Thanks for watching. Comment for any suggestions. Like, share and subscribe for more videos.